Hello, everyone, and thank you for the introduction. So I've heard a lot of great things over these 2 days, and it's really important for me because, you always think that you have your own problems in your own enclosed space, and you come here and you see that whatever the size of the company, you always have the same issues, and that these tools allow us to go further, to rationalize and to put an action plan, not just feelings. You're in the action, you're in the production, you know that you're doing a lot of things, but you think that your colleagues are not doing enough or maybe doing too much, and you yourself, you can't find the correct way to identify and move forward with your company without these numbers. And as a small-time player, I've heard the stories of Nortex yesterday. I hear the story of Kilingo just right now, and I think that we do have so much in common, even though we are at different sizes. I've been working in this industry for 13 years. I was an intern in the company when it started, and we were just 2 people, and I'm still there after 13 years. Maybe I'm lazy, I don't know, but. The fact is that we're still a small-time LSP, we're not the big ones, and we try to move forward in every way we can, and we still have issues that are common even if you're big, small or medium. And the main problem we have in our industry, for me, is the length of the sales cycles. When you start you contact a customer, you start, asking them if they have translation jobs, if we can help them. It takes a long time to get to the sale and then to really actively working with them. And for small-time companies, it's always complicated to grow, also to hire people when we don't have the visibility for all this sales cycle. So this is why we decided to go the M&A way, even though we were small-time. The thing is, we of course we wanted to grow faster, but also we had a major problem for sales, which was something called economical dependency. I don't know if you've heard about it. We had clients, very important clients, maybe the biggest ones we have, that refuse to give us more business. They are happy with what we provide. They refuse to give us more business just because we were too small, basically, and we were dependent on the sales from them. So we decided to go the M&A way because it was the quickest way to get this sale that was practically there. And we thought this might not be that much of an effort. that was a bit wrong, but we started. So we were a team of 10 originally, and we bought a company of 5 people. So it doesn't sound too big, and it doesn't sound too challenging, basically, because you think that you probably have the same DNA. We are a niche-oriented company. We want to provide quality over quantity. So we decided to find another company that has the same kind of orientation. We found a company that was doing very financial translations, very niche-oriented things. So we thought we probably have the same DNA, the same processes. We even have probably the same vendors because we did also a bit of finance. So this was the right way to move on, just to find someone that looks just like us and try to merge everything. So to do that, we needed a cement, a tool to create, to make sure the marriage can work. And this tool was Plunet. But we had, of course, a TMS, they had a TMS, so you had to find the right way to move on. So to tell the whole story of our marriage, I would say, since it's a love story, I need to start, like every great story, with the breakup that we had before that. So we had a TMS as a company, WordClass, and one day I try to connect to the TMS like every Monday, and I can't. And I receive an email saying that it's gone, basically, and that I will never recover it, ever. for a small-time company, it's very painful. It was the hardest breakup I've ever had to go through, I guess. And that's very emotional for me. But if I can just give you one takeaway from this story, is that you have to check your contract, because we thought we had a backup. Of course we have a backup. Everything's okay. But the word remote is very important here, because if your backup is in the same place, well, you're screwed. And we had, of course, logs, we had copies, we had all of the invoices, the POs, everything, but we had to build, again, the TMS from scratch. And, well, you have your own recovery plan, you have your backup, you have your things, but still you have to do it all over again, from scratch, and it's very painful. And we decided to, since we wanted to go through the M&A process, that we wanted to have maybe a better tool, because our tool was imperfect. So we decided to go with Plunet, because we had, of course, checked the system a few times, and we thought it was not worth the effort just changing the TMS if we had to rebuild. But then we had no choice, so we rebuilt. And we started to go with Plunet and used it as a stepping stone for the M&A process. So how did we do that, basically? Before the merger, we had, so we bought the company called Fastnet Translation, very specialized, and we started analyzing our different, our different tools and processes. And we used a TMS, they had another one. We had a CAT tool, they had another one, and we were ISO certified, they were not. They were not using KPIs at all. And we had vendors in common. So there was a work to be done here, and to make sure we could harness the power of this merger. And we decided to check what they had, what we had, and definitely Plunet was the correct way to go, because the database, the vendor management, the quality module, everything was there and way more powerful than the other system. So our main concern was that we had to merge, to integrate with the tool while keeping our own identities, because we still had one system but two instances. We were operating under two different names. There was WordClass, there is Fastnet. Still right now we have two companies. So there are clients. Everybody was confused and they were scared of saying, yeah, I'm going to lose my translation company. So we decided to go while staying in the same setup, same names, but we had to use the same system just to have the vendors, just to have the same processes, just to be able to communicate correctly. So we decided to use the KPIs from Plunet to make sure that we can interact and have the same, I would say, level of speech between the two companies. So we, of course, created, at least used the KPIs from Plunet that are very basic on a corporate level. So the revenue, the margin, the DSO, and we're looking at even further going down to the EBIT, really monitoring. And we had, of course, operational KPIs, the ones that we use for production. And when you look at them, they're very basic. You know, the service rate, if the clients are happy, the vendor evaluation, the on-time deliveries, anything that anyone does in an everyday life as a project manager or even a small team manager. But what really was important for us is that we had the same across the two companies, because even though we had different processes or different vendors, clients, we needed to rationalize just the feelings that we had, just to understand basically who was working in the team with which clients, who was, for example, underestimated. You know, this person that says, yeah, but I'm doing much more than my colleagues, but they can't really identify how or why. So we had a common ground just to talk to each other. And of course, it was linked to HR as well. So if someone just comes to you at the end of the year and saying, yeah, I think I've done a great year, I need a promotion, but there's no number. So how can we define this? So the fact that we could harvest all of this from Plunet allowed us to leverage all of the modules that we had, the quality module, the VM module, and really increase operational efficiency on all levels. And even though it's not of course perfect, the goal behind all of these analytics was also to identify patterns, behaviors, and ways of working, understanding basically who was working with the bigger clients, because maybe they were the oldest one in the company, and how to reshift the way we distribute workload, because this is one of the main problems in smaller teams, because you have the new one that probably works a bit less because he's not used to it, and the oldest one in the company that just has the bigger clients, and maybe sometimes they just want to do something else. They're just bored of doing the same task all over again. So with these numbers, you can, of course, this works. So I was able to assert dominance in my team, so that was very important first. And also, we can identify not only who's working on a bigger number of projects, so who does 200, 300, 400 projects in a month, and who does, for example, only 100, but also correlate all the data. Meaning, if someone just has a huge revenue, does not mean necessarily that they work more than the other one, basically because they have bigger clients. And we need to identify these patterns, to know exactly and correlate all the data, not just one, because one number does not mean anything. We needed to correlate everything together just to make sure that we could take action, just to have actionable intel on our production, on our day-to-day basis, on our work. And also we created HR synergies between the two companies, because before that, of course, the other company that we bought had absolutely nothing in terms of metrics. They didn't know anything about what they were doing. They were not even able to give us the exact revenue per year before the accountant, put it out. So they were navigating in an old-fashioned way, And here we created a way to talk to each other, which is kind of silly in a way, because we are translation agencies and we did not have the language to talk with one another. And the fact that we use Plunet as the stepping stone for this, it allowed us to have action plans as a corporate, on a corporate level, while still keeping, the specificities, the unique traits that we had as separate companies. So, of course, I'm not saying that this is perfect, definitely not, and we're still growing as a company, but the fact that we're using numbers to rationalize things, the fact that we're trying to use actionable intel to go through the culture barrier that we may have, even though we're French. We bought another French company, so we normally have the same DNA and structure. We use the numbers not to just talk, but also understand each other and go further beyond the translation road, which is basically what we try to do with our clients on a daily basis. And I think that without the tool, we probably would have had much more trouble integrating, and also we would probably never had a successful M&A, because we would not have been able to communicate correctly. And this is what we sell every day as translation agencies. This is a way to communicate and reach further. So thank you for hearing me out. I know it's a common story, kind of, but I'm happy to share this and to learn from you, just to be able to grow together.